This is a film directed by Jared Hess in 2025.
I
am Steve.
And this is a film directed by Jared Hess 20 years earlier.
Steve. I'm Steve.
This guy's a one-trick pony. He just makes movies about guys named Steve. Jared Hess's career as a director is super varied, and whether it's a failure or a success is debatable. Sure, he went from Napoleon Dynamite to directing a huge movie, a film adaptation of Minecraft, which on paper is quite a gig, but could this be the death of him artistically, or did that happen already, quite a while ago? Jared Hess and his wife Jerusha Hess, who he's written all his scripts with, are super talented filmmakers with unique creative instincts, and how much could that be utilized in the confines of a giant video game movie? That being said, I've also had mixed feelings about previous movies in their filmographies, ones with far lower budgets and supposedly far more creative freedom. Plus, there's plenty from them I haven't seen, so I wanted to watch all those and revisit the ones I have. The earliest thing on Jared Hess's Letterboxd or IMDb, which are basically what I'll be going off of for this whole video, is Cardboard Only. It's a really cute meandering short film that has some promising direction. Next is Peluca, which is a proto-Napoleon Dynamite. There's just as much identical to Napoleon Dynamite in Peluca as there is different. John Sweetheart's score for Napoleon Dynamite is fantastic, but I also love the music used here. In this version, the main character's name is Seth. Also, that kid is strangely a better actor than the one in the movie.
What are you gonna do today, Seth? What are you gonna do today, Napoleon?
There's a character in this short named Pedro, but Pedro in the feature film is more like Gale in the short film. The plot of the short film is getting Gale a wig, which was incorporated into the feature. Other things weren't, but what I find super interesting are the things that were shot but then cut out of the feature film. The lottery ticket scene is an example of this, and it's super interesting to watch. People talk about how J.K. Simmons' performances in the Whiplash short and feature are identical, and the same can be said for John Heater here. The way he knocks that cooler down is like perfectly identical. There's a story that while they were making this short, they had some extra film and they used it on John Heater dancing, and that's how they got the idea to incorporate that into the feature. And I could have sworn I'd seen footage of him dancing like on the side of the road at some point. Like when I went to rewatch this short, I was surprised it wasn't there because I thought the end credits played over that, but I couldn't find it, so I possibly imagined it, but maybe that footage is online somewhere, I don't know. There's really something special here, and it makes total sense that it was developed and expanded to feature length. Napoleon Dynamite is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's actually the first movie I can remember definitively considering my all-time favorite movie. Since I saw it for the first time when I was a kid, I've seen and connected deeply with so many more films that now I don't consider Napoleon Dynamite to be in my #1 spot, but that doesn't mean that anything took its place or that I love it any less. The first time I ever saw it, I was a kid in the most prolific filmmaking period of my life. I was making little sketches with my friends all the time, and Napoleon Dynamite was among the first movies that made me think, like, wow, I could do that for real. It seemed so attainable, and it still does. Nearly every frame of this movie I adore. The opening credits are fantastic, so creative and well shot, and they set the tone perfectly. Even if there was no motion in these shots and they were just static overhead shots of these plates and objects, this would still be an all-time opening credit sequence. But having hands insert the plates into the shot and meticulously roll these pencils into the proper position is it just goes the extra mile. Although it annoys me that this bun doesn't go perfectly on the burger. It's a little off center, but that's okay, that's okay. We're Gonna Be Friends by the White Stripes fits the tone perfectly, not just of the credits, but of the entire movie and its themes. It's sweet and sincere and contradictory to how I think most other people interpret this movie, but I find it to be very fitting. Before we even see Napoleon, we feel like we already know him. We've seen his drawings, we've seen the UFO insurance card he has in his wallet. Then we see him and he's got everything tucked into everything, like even his pants into his socks. Yeah, I love his expression here. I interpret this as him looking at the bus driver before he tosses the action figure out the window, which indicates to me that he's been told not to do this before. Look at this little sticker, he knows. Which then makes me think, how long ago was he told not to do this? Is this something he did when he was as old as all the other kids on this bus, and he got in trouble, and he's been doing it for a decade since out of spite? I'm arguably overthinking this, but one of the reasons this movie never stops being funny to me is because I extrapolate more and more every time I watch it. The characters all feel so real that I truly can imagine them at any point in the past or future of their lives. I think the fact that I can so easily make up all this backstory and depth to a dumb 20 seconds in the movie demonstrates how well written these characters are. In every dialogue scene, it's the little things I appreciate most the more times I watch the movie. Everyone quotes,
"I told you I spent it with my uncle in Alaska hunting wolverines."
But I love how accusatory Napoleon is here.
"They kept trying to attack my cousins. What the heck would you do in a situation like that?"
Just like immediately and needlessly escalating the conversation and implying that Don would allow his cousins to get killed by wolverines. It's amazing. The Rex Kwon Do scene is famous, but it's not just a funny tangent. Napoleon is taking this advice seriously even before he's insulted. When Rex says that he needs someone watching his back at all times, he's taken in every word.
"So me and you are pretty much friends by now, right?
Yes.
So you got my back and everything?"
What?
Never mind.
And it's also a setup for when Rico gets caught later. Napoleon continues pathologically lying by telling Pedro that the photo Deb gave him is his girlfriend from Oklahoma. It's nothing intricate, but I feel like the script doesn't get enough credit because it's just a very well-written, solid comedy. And you know, not just good for a comedy. Like most movies, period, of any genre aren't this tight. Just very smart setup and payoff and reincorporation and showing not telling. It's a measurably good script all around. Assessing acting is, I think, one of the most subjective aspects of a film, but Uncle Rico's monologue here is great. It'd be a standout scene for any actor, and if the context of the scene wasn't that it's in Napoleon Dynamite, this scene would totally be in all those like, oh, best acting compilation videos. And John Heater's whole performance is great. It's one of the best comedic performances ever, in my opinion. When anybody else plays Napoleon Dynamite or does an impression or whatever, it feels and sounds exactly like that. Acting or an impression. Even John Heater acting as Napoleon Dynamite in cameos or commercials doesn't feel as authentic. But in the movie, he feels like a real person. I think you could tell plenty of people that that's just how the actor looked and sounded, and they'd believe you. In the commentary, John Grise talks about how the actors were never playing funny or winking at the camera, as he puts it, which I think is completely the right foundation for these performances. And so much of that can be attributed to Jared Hess's meticulous direction. So many of the actors in the film have talked about how specific his instruction was, where to keep their hands in a scene, where and when to turn their head, which syllables of a word to place emphasis on, how the character runs. Since my brain elaborates on everything here, another one of my favorite lines of the movie is,
Too bad. She says she doesn't want you here when she gets back because you've been ruining everybody's lives and eating all our steak.
on a surface level, it's initially funny, like Napoleon's pissed that Rico's been eating all their steak, and it's also a funny juxtaposition. Ruining your life and eating all your steak, those are two very different levels of severity, but it kills me to think that there's been a grudge building up in Napoleon all this time, and he lets it out at this moment. Rico is eating steak in like 3 different scenes in the movie, like he eats it a lot. It's not focused on or emphasized the way any other movie would. The steak isn't the last straw, it's just a grievance that he cannot stay silent about any longer, and this is the moment he chooses to bring it up, tacked onto the way bigger issue at hand. The dancing, which is probably the most famous scene, could have been an out-of-place like LOL so random XD scene, but it's also set up throughout, and it's the culmination of Napoleon's arc. My only complaint about this movie would be that there's not enough of it, and I mean that literally. There's a deleted scene where Napoleon goes fishing that I wish was kept in the final cut. Not only because it's like a really slow, ruminative scene that's not actively stimulating us in any way, like it's really nice to just like breathe and spend time with these characters and not having anything thrust the plot forward, but it also sets up these other lines.
I caught you a delicious bass.
I have no reason to think this is the case, but I've wondered if there's a cut with that scene in it, because there are multiple cuts of the movie. The post-credits wedding scene was added after its wide release in theaters, and it didn't initially have the opening credits either. I don't remember exactly when that was added, and in the world premiere documentary, you can see that the closing credits are different from the ones that exist now. So it's possible that there were scenes in the cut screened then that later got removed, but regardless, this is still a great movie, and it's one of my all-time favorites that I could go on forever about. After that, he directed the music video for We Will Become Silhouettes by the Postal Service. I've listened to Death Cab for Cutie, but I hadn't heard anything from the Postal Service until I watched this video, so it was cool to check them out. His next film, which is the first Jared Hess movie I ever saw when I was a little kid, is Nacho Libre. I still really like this movie, but certainly not as much as Napoleon Dynamite. The cinematography is great, as is the music, both the score and soundtrack. Danny Elfman and Beck did music for the movie. The humor is more uneven for me, like him elbowing the chips is so funny to me, but I'm not the biggest fan of more gross out things, like him shooting food out of his nose and smearing it across his face. The comedy is often weaker, and it falls flat more often than it does in Napoleon Dynamite, but I think more sticks than doesn't. It's overall just a less restrained movie than Napoleon Dynamite. The tone and style aren't quite right either. I don't think it's all 100% cohesive. It gets very cartoony, but it doesn't totally commit. Napoleon Dynamite had instances of slapstick and physical comedy, but it was all understated and like within the bounds of realism. It was kind of like mumblecore slapstick. I like him soaring out of the ring at the end, but the impact is lessened by the rest of the movie having already been as heightened as this. I think it would have been better if this was the only moment of surrealism. Another aspect I wish was more restrained was Jack Black's performance, where in Napoleon Dynamite, I only see the character in John Heater's performance. In Jack Black's performance, I constantly see Jack Black acting and doing his shtick, which is especially disappointing because in plenty of scenes, especially when his secret is revealed, Jack Black's performance is actually good. It's one of the only instances where he's playing it straight, but that proves he's capable of doing it and is either choosing not to or was directed not to the rest of the time. And I think this is true for a lot of Jack Black's performances. There are other movies where he doesn't rely on his persona and he's good. What John Grease said about not winking at the camera in Napoleon Dynamite isn't the case here. It's not that Jack Black is bad, it's that he's often good, which makes the moments where he winks at the camera more disappointing. I've made it sound like I don't like the movie, but that's not the case. I do like it a lot. It's a really good movie, and I have a lot of nostalgia for it. Gentlemen Broncos is a weird one. Napoleon Dynamite is a great movie that I love a lot. Nacho Libre is a more uneven movie, but it's still agreeable and enjoyable and beloved by many people. But I don't exactly know what to make of Gentlemen Broncos. This movie's kind of abrasive, in a way. The previous movies are easy to explain, even to those who dislike them, but some things in this movie are borderline baffling to even me. It goes from inaccessible sci-fi stuff that sometimes isn't even obviously comedic, to toilet humor and back again, but I kind of like it. Like I said, I don't know what to make of it, but I like it. I'm not saying it's a misunderstood masterpiece. It might be, but I'm not saying that because I don't know. I admit, I do not think I have any kind of assessment on this movie, but it might be a master. I don't know. I've only watched it for the second time, and I definitely want to see it again because there's something there that I don't quite grasp that I want to, and I feel like I'm close. After that came the Napoleon Dynamite animated series, which is a decent show. I love the characters in the film. They all feel like real people to me, but here they're just cartoon characters, which adds up because it's a cartoon. It's not the same style or tone as the movie, which would have been something I'd like to see, a more nonchalant series, but that doesn't mean I'd prefer it necessarily. I don't know, because I haven't seen it, because it doesn't exist, but there's an argument to be made that the movie already exists, so why do we need more of it? Why not lean into absurdism? It got canceled immediately, so you could probably watch like all 6 episodes in an hour and a half, so go do that if you want. After that, Jerusha Hess, Jared Hess's wife, who co-wrote all their other movies, made her directorial debut and only film so far, Austenland. It's based on the book by Shannon Hale, and I don't know anything about Jane Austen. I think I've only seen the 2020 Emma adaptation, and I don't remember anything about it, so this movie doesn't click with me that much, but it's enjoyable and it's funny. After a 6-year break, Jared Hess finally directed another film, Don Verdean. Don Verdean begins promisingly, but after this opening scene, the divergence from the Hess's usual style is immediately jarring. The opening shot is handheld, and it feels so out of place, especially watching all their movies back to back. The style change could have been out of necessity due to the tight budget and schedule, although I don't know how much tighter it was than Gentlemen Broncos. Napoleon Dynamite looks fantastic, and that was shot on an even lower budget and in less time, but there is a lot less going on in that movie, so maybe Don Verdean required more efficiency. The tone of this movie also feels slightly off, and it's hard to tell how intertwined that is with the visual style. Gentlemen Broncos was abrasive and a little confusing, but this is more so, but like in an opposite direction somehow. The main problem for me, like as far as I can tell, is the central character. Don says that his motivations are pure and that he's in this to save people, but we don't believe him because his actions never seem to convey that. But as the movie progresses, we realize we're expected to believe that his intentions are good. I've seen it twice now, and again, it feels like a movie I don't get, even more so than Gentlemen Broncos. Even something as minute as the font for the title cards and like the credits is generic and implies seriousness, and I don't understand why this was chosen. And the last line of the movie is edited so weirdly. There's an awkward cut in the middle of it, and we're given no room to breathe before music starts playing. We don't see the character saying it, we don't see the other character's reaction to it. I don't understand it, it's so peculiar. It feels like ADR, it feels like it wasn't initially supposed to be there. Jared Hess said he had full control over the movie when specifically answering a question about the ending, so I don't know. Masterminds is the first film he directed that he didn't also write. It's totally possible he was really into the premise or the script and he was thrilled to be directing this movie, but I can also imagine it being discouraging, taking a job directing a movie you didn't write when all your previous projects were entirely yours. This feels the most like a job for him, a job done well, but still a job. His direction is the most generic and standardized that it's ever been. Even in Don Verdean, where I found there to be an odd departure from his usual style, there was still some personality present. It's a fine comedy, but it's not a Hess film despite him directing it. At least it doesn't feel that way. Since then, he was attached to a handful of different projects that never got made. He directed some TV episodes, he co-directed 2 documentaries for Netflix and an animated movie, but his output has been pretty sporadic, and he hasn't got any original screenplays made. But he finally made his return to a live-action, theatrically released film with the project that, out of all the ones he was signed on to, seemed the least likely to get made, Minecraft. I remember when it was announced that he was going to be directing this, I didn't think much of it because a ton of different directors had already come and gone, and I didn't think this would be a different situation. But the movie finally got made with him as the director. I was kinda dreading seeing this. I wasn't wanting to hate it, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't worried I was going to leave disappointed in one of my favorite directors. But I actually wasn't disappointed, which I don't even think can be solely attributed to the fact that my expectations were so low, I'm happy to say. A Minecraft movie is, at worst, kinda generic, but still superior to most other movies like it, and at best, there's a startling amount of the Hess's sensibilities in here, and I wasn't expecting that. Part of me literally thinks that somebody may have put into ChatGPT, write scenes similar to Napoleon Dynamite and Nacho Libre for a movie about Minecraft. I didn't find any of the humor groan-worthy, and some of the stuff I even found like really funny, like the potato mascot falling. I was also expecting the YouTube cameos to be egregious, like that MatPat cameo in Five Nights at Freddy's, or Nolan North in the Uncharted movie, but they weren't at all. They didn't obstruct the movie itself or draw attention to themselves at all. I don't think Jack Black has ever had a more insincere performance, but this isn't a real movie, so it doesn't bother me as much as it does in Nacho Libre. There's also an unexpected amount of gravity and like violence. They kill a little pig kid, a sheep is torn apart like alive and screaming, and yeah, I was never under the impression that like, oh, one of our main characters might die, there are severe stakes now, but I still appreciated that this wasn't 100% sanitized playing it safe. This wasn't as good as, say, the Lego Movie. That's what comes to mind as the best movie based on a toy or a video video game or whatever, but I enjoyed it, and I'm often a really negative person, so I wasn't expecting that. And like I said, it's far better than most other movies like it. There is one project I didn't mention, which is 95 Senses. 95 Senses is an animated short film directed by Jerusha and Jared Hess, starring Tim Blake Nelson, animated by a ton of different people, and it's fantastic. It's really beautiful, and it's really dark, and everyone should check it out. It was written by Chris Bowman and Hubble Palmer, who were also writers on the Minecraft movie, and in 2007, they made a movie called American Fork, or Humble Pie. It's got 2 titles, depending on where you look, but that movie's great too. No one's really seen it, didn't go anywhere, it really flew under the radar, but it's a really nice watch. I'm hoping with the success of the Minecraft movie, plus an Oscar nomination for 95 Senses, that the Hesses are able to get some original screenplays made. They didn't write it, but 95 Senses is excellent, and so much of their sensibilities shine through in the Minecraft movie that I'm really optimistic and looking forward to what they're able to make, because I'm completely convinced that they have a great comeback in them.